You know, there are. At first of all, I mean, this cues the way that you hear, and like you will hear in most film scores, what you actually hear, what actually makes it to the end. A lot of the times, it's already been really you take the accessories out. Sorry, my English sometimes still kind of. So what I find is that I'll write these themes, and they're really thick. Twice, three times as thick as what you heard. And then we start to really take everything out. Now, it depends on what you're doing and depends on what kind of project it is. I mean, I did a score that is for this Muhammad Ali documentary that is going to come out on HBO next month, where the music is really, it's scoring the fights a lot of the time. So you really want a lot of sound for that. And in that case, it's like more is more. You want more and more and more. But in shows that are very moody and shows that are, I think it's a lot of the times it's about how little can you add to it, and what's what's the sweet spot for me might be different than for Derek, and I guarantee you it's very different from the showrunner, who ultimately will be there, who's hanging on every word, and I would say that depends on which part of filmmaking you're talking about, or TV. Of course, you have the Marvels and all of that stuff where you're scoring every inch and everything is like full on. But, the stuff that I do tends to be much more human and drama based. And so you really want to not lead. That's really the key thing for me that I strive all the time, is how to not overact with the music. That's the thing that if there's one skill that I try to fight as hard as I can, is not to have that cringy moment where you feel like, fuck, the music is telling me what to feel now, and it's ahead of, like, there's who's the great actress from the silver age, from the real golden age of cinema, that complained that the composer, that the music got to the top of the stairs before she did. Yeah, so it's I feel like this happens still. Betty Davis, right? Yeah, and there's its own version of that still exists, and sometimes you need that. I mean, if it's a superhero thing, or if it's but you definitely don't want to get there before they do. You want to be on it or just slightly late. But with dramas, it's very, very tricky, because you can be the person that is going to make, instead of a Emmy or Academy Award winning performance, you can just make them look like they're trying too hard and they're overacting, and I think that the overacting of the music is the one thing that I'm always, and so when in doubt, I'd rather have less. And again, the less is more. When I worked on Fences with Denzel Washington, I literally had a big sign that I wrote that said less is more, really big, and I put it in front of my setup where I was writing, and I would just look at that all the time. And that was the extreme of just all dialogue all the time, and the first cue doesn't come in until like half hour into the movie. But to a greater or lesser extent, that's a big part for me. And so I think you have to find what is your question of how do you know when it's, if there is enough there, is to try to take everything in, and also know that there will be sound effects, and that there's all of this other stuff that it's, depending on the scene, will be just a big part of it too, and how to allow for that space and for your music not to crush the sound effects and vice versa.